Okay guys, I'm gonna do a quick supply video. It's only gonna be really quickly. I'm not gonna go too much into detail because these videos take me forever to upload and edit and all that sort of thing. So basically some of the main supplies that I use, I don't use really fancy ones. There's a couple of higher end items that I save up for and I basically use. So when it comes to paints, I am cheap as buggery basically, and I use paints that come from $2 stores and stuff like that. Now these paints here, the one thing that I like about them is that they're really translucent. So this is my red, and my paint water is really grubby. Get some on the page. It's almost empty. It's what I do all my red flowers in, so it gets a bit of a beating. But it's really translucent, and that is one of the things that I adore about the cheap paint. Some people may hate that, but that's one of the things that draws me to keep going back and buying really dodgy $2 paints, because they are so translucent. So the stuff that I get is Craftworks and Kaiser Color. They're the two brands that the cheap stores in Australia basically stock. All the ones in my little old hometown in Inverell, they're the ones. And I recently started using Montmartre's Dimension brand, which is, Montmartre is a all-around art supply place in Australia. So basically all the cheap shops have started selling the Montmartre brand. So they're the paints that I use. Nothing really expensive. I don't own a single golden acrylic, anything like that. I basically use the craft paints and the craft paints only. Now, the other things that I use for my backgrounds are the distress stains, and you've probably seen these used before. And these are the Tim Holtz brands, and I have quite a few different colours. There's some of the colours that I use in my backgrounds, and they're like a really quick way to get ink down on a page, get some colour in there, and I like to make dots. So basically the Tim Holtz distress stains are one of my go-tos as well. A lot of people have watched some of my other videos and they all see this. Now this is my one of my watercolor palettes, and all my brushes are disgustingly dirty, so I don't even know where my Aqua brush is at the moment. So this is what brand is it? It's called Micador. It's a cheap brand in Australia, and I picked this up at a place called Big W. That is like our version of Walmart, I think, for you guys. This one cost me $10, and I use this one a lot, like all the time. Let's see if I can get some of this gunky water out. So basically I do a lot of my watercolor work using these. I have put a more expensive brand on my birthday wish list, but I am fine using these. They're very bright, and they for $10 it really is an awesome brand. I have a cover for it somewhere. There it is. So basically $9.99, and I got all those colours, and they do me just fine. This page here was all done with those watercolours, so they're not lacking. When I talk about watercolours, the Neo Color 2s by Karen Diash, as you've seen me use them in if you've watched my previous videos, my colour videos and stuff like that. So a lot of people, these are one of my higher end things, and I did save up for these before I bought them because they were a little out of my price range. It's not something I could just go pick up off the shelf and buy. So I saved up for weeks to get these, squirreling money away every so often so that I could afford to buy them, because they really are an investment piece. They're something that I use quite a lot, and you just basically use them and add water to them, and they get all yummy and colourful. Is that all yellow? But I use these a lot for backgrounds. Also, the skin tone colour is around here somewhere. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I've put it somewhere safe. Oh, there it is. So the skin color, it's, this one's called Salmon, I think. Yep, Salmon. So that's the color I use for skin tones if I'm doing watercolor faces. Very, very handy. What else have I got here? I use a lot of markers in my work, and I have a select few of the big brush pens by Faber-Castell, the Pitt pens. So I use these quite a lot in my art journal. They're very chunky and very vibrant, and these actually are all gifts from my mum when she's ordered sets and gotten doubles. So they get used sparingly because I will probably never go out and buy my own set. I just hope for doubles from mum. So these ones are really handy. Also the markers. I was in a marker club for quite a while, and so my Copic marker set is quite big. There are other markers in here besides the Copics. So I have quite a lot of Copic markers because of the marker clubs. The only way I could have afforded to do this was to go into a club, and I got, I think, 7 markers every month for $37. So that's how I saved and got all these different colors, because I made it affordable for me, because at the time I was a single mom, so I couldn't really afford to go out and buy, because in Australia they're like $10 a color, and that's rich. So doing it the way that I did it was the only way that I got a lot of the colors. So Copic markers are one of the things that I use quite a lot, but there are so many different brands out there that are alcohol markers. You do not, if you want to play with Copics, if you want to play with markers, don't always think that, you know, you need to buy the best, have the best, because Pro Marker are a nice cheaper option. These are the Aqua Markers that I don't use nearly as often as I should, and they have normal brands of markers, and they are just as good. There's nothing wrong with looking cheaper within your budget and still having a play. And I don't use my Aqua Markers as much as I should. I'm naughty. So they are really juicy and colourful, and they were a really good buy. I just need to use them more. I also have the neon markers by Letraset. So they're the same brand as the Aqua Markers, but they're the neon ones. I love these. Christy was the one that introduced me to these neon ones, and they are like the best. I use these. Where is another one? They're all around here somewhere. I use the neon markers quite a lot. These ones go into my pencil case that I take with me, because they're an easy way to just pop colour onto a page. White pens. I use the Posca paint marker for a lot of my work, a lot of my white details. Sometimes, this one's getting old, so it's not working as well. And also the Sharpie white poster paint pens. These ones are really good. They give a really good coverage, and they are white. Some of the whites are like, say they're white, and then they're really not white. They're just see-through, and that is a pet hate of mine. If something says white, it should be white. See, it's going straight onto that watercolor marker, and you can see that I've actually put white down, not see-through white. This is a cheapo white pen from Typo, and it cost me $2, but this one does a good job as well. It's like the Signo Broad. I normally have a Signo in my pencil case, but I'm actually out of them at the moment, so the Uniball ones. But this was a good cheap alternative. So these 3 pens are also the ones that go into my pencil case that I take with me. I use multi-liners when I want to work with outlining or drawing my creatures, knowing that I'm going to be turning them into something that has wet media on them. And these are waterproof, and they're from the Copic brand. They were a bit pricey. These ones are new at the moment because I bought them for a commission piece. So I have the 0.7, and I think inside I have the brush version of it, which is very, very lovely. And I also have the micron pen as well, which is the Pigma micron, yeah. So they're made with archival ink as well. So these are basically the things that I draw my little creatures with when I want to do outlines. This one's dying as well. I need a new pen revival. My pens get used so much that they're ready to bite the dust. So they're the black pens that I use. I also Typo do cheap black pens as well. These ones aren't waterproof though, too much to my dismay. I found that out the hard way when I drew something in the pen and then went to go add some stuff to it and it bled everywhere. So even though they're cheap, I would only use this for colored pencil, or that's pretty much it. Colored pencil, just leaving it black and white because they bleed. And they do the hot pink as well. So these are the sorts of pens that I go and buy my little girl, because you get 5 colors for $5. And Lily goes through so many pens with all her scribblings and little girl journal makings, so that I go and buy her a couple of these, to the point where the other day she asked me if I'd stolen her pen because she thought this was hers. So they're the pens that I use. When it comes to pencils, there is only one brand I use, and these are another one of my investment items. I use the Prismacolor Pencils. I saved up as well for these, and I have not used any other colored pencil besides the, what do you call them, Inktense sometimes. So these are the Prismacolor pencils, and they are so yummy and so soft, and when these run out I will replace them most definitely. They blend beautifully. I do a lot of some of my face work in these colors. You use the white pencil to sort of blend them all together, but they are very, very rich in pigment and very soft. But yes, they are higher end pencils, so that if you were to buy these, they would set you back a bit. So unless you're really going to use them a lot in your work, they're an investment piece. So I bought I think the 76. So there's not all of them, that's just one of the small packs. I've probably bought about 3 or 4 extra pencils, like single colors, and I bought a couple of whites because my white gets used and abused quite a bit. Washi tape are some of the things that I use in my art journal a lot, and I get my washi tape from Typo most of the time, unless my mum has gifted me some, because she's got quite a huge stash of washi tape. So Typo is the place, it's a little Australian place that sell washi tape, and I will also get a mix pack from a shop in Inverell where I used to live called Me and Mr. Jones, and they do like little mix packs of a brand called Mix Tape, I think. So they do little grab bags. So some of these are from it could be My Tape, MT the brand is. So some of them are Typo brand and some of them are the MT brand. But basically that's where most of my tapes come from. Basically I don't spend a lot of money. I never buy them online either. I've wanted to, but I've never gone out of my way and done it. When it comes to acrylic inks, I own like 6 colors. So I own a Liquitex brand in a couple of colors, and the LittleRavenInk in a few colors. Now these, I use these, oh, this one's getting old. Hold on. There we go. This one is the one there's an ant on my book. Get off. So basically I use them with the droppers, and I basically draw with them. That's how I've always used it, unless I'm trying to like spray them or do something like that. But I do a lot of flower work with them, because they make a really cool statement thing, basically. So that's how I use the acrylic inks. And sometimes I will use some water and spray them and let them go wild. So that reacts really nicely. So when I want that sort of crazy little effect, I spray them with water. Now on sprays, I have 3 brands. Where's the other brand gone? I have a couple colors in the Dilution ink spray because they were gifted to me when I worked for Jane at one of the shows. So I have, I think, 3 colors in the Dilution. So they're really, really heavy and really bright. And where's the white? The other colors I have are, just dull that down a bit. I use a Lindy Stamp. These are the first ones I ever bought, the Lindy Stamp Gang ones, and they were really on a special, really cheap. They have the glitter in them. This one's a brown, so I'm not going to put the brown on there because that'll look hideous. And I also use the Adirondack color washes. Now I've almost stopped using these because they don't set, and I know that they're brightly colored and they're beautiful, but they just don't. Just mix some of that acrylic ink in and get like a rainbow wash in there. They run with wet media, and it pisses me off a little bit. So I will use them sparingly now. I used to use them a lot more, but now I do so much to my pages that I need something that's going to sit on the page and not go off and play with something else or fade into something else or bleed. So I'm get a bit ragey at the old. They're great. They're awesome, but if a bit of wet media touches them, it goes mental. I have to treat it so that it doesn't move. When it comes to gesso, I buy anything that is on special. So this one I think cost me $12, and it is it's lasted me quite a while. It's pretty good, pretty thick. It stinks though. And I also buy basically a cheap big pot of white acrylic paint as well. So those two are the things that I buy in bulk. This is the white's the only paint that I actually buy that's not a cheap brand because I use it so much. What else do I have for you guys? In the ways of what I use. Let's see. I use ephemera, so I have cheap wallpaper. Not cheap. This one was gifted to me. I've got a couple in here. Random old wallpaper, books. I have stamp pads that I don't use very often, but I do sometimes for my stampings. I have the distress inks and stuff like that, so I use them not very often, but they're there. I use a few cheap stencils, nothing out of the ordinary basically. Oh shoot, that was still wet. So as you can see, you don't have to have the best of anything to make good stuff happen. You can have the cheapest supplies. It just depends on your imagination. Nothing I have besides a couple of my big ticket items that I didn't go out and buy on the spur of the moment. I saved. It took me weeks to decide if I wanted to actually go ahead and purchase these things, and then I had to save for them, and so I don't take things lightly, basically. See that typo marker? That's getting all mushy with that neon marker. Damn that. I should learn my lesson. So this is basically all I use in my supplies, and they get me by. So many people have asked me what sort of things that I use in my journals and how did I get this and how did I get that. So you've basically, it's nothing outstanding. It's nothing that no one, I don't use abnormal supplies or anything like that. I use the same stuff that everyone else does. I just probably use it in a different way. That's all. So you've seen the crazy stuff that I use. And now maybe tomorrow I will come back and I will finish this double page spread in a sped up version for you guys, so you can have a video today and a video tomorrow. Just takes me a little while to load them all up. So I'll let this dry on its own, and then I'll come back in and finish it up in an art speed video for you, so you guys can see what I turn this creative mess into. And I will see you guys next week with a video on self-portraits to get you guys ready to start turning some of your pictures into whimsy animals. Okay? I hope you've enjoyed that. If there is any questions that you guys have, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm always online and I always answer questions. Thanks!